I knew something was off the moment Aston's secretary called to reschedule our meeting for the third time. Not a cancellation, a brief postponement that pushed our 10 a.m. slot to 4:30 p.m. when the office would be nearly empty. Still, I straightened my blazer and practiced my smile in the elevator's reflective doors. This promotion was 5 years in the making. The 52nd floor always gave me a rush. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing Manhattan's skyline, that rarefied air of success. I'd clawed my way up from assistant to senior manager, surviving 2 restructures and countless late nights. Today was supposed to be my coronation as director of operations. "Natasha, come in, come in." Aston's voice carried that practiced warmth he reserved for clients and board members. He gestured to the chair across from his desk, rather than the couch where we usually had our one-on-ones. First red flag. "Sorry about the scheduling chaos. Merger discussions are eating up my calendar." He loosened his tie slightly. "Drink? I'm having one." "I'm good, thanks." I needed clarity, not scotch. "Suit yourself." He poured 2 fingers anyway, ice clinking against crystal. "So, big day." My heart quickened. "I appreciate you making time. The team's quarterly results exceeded projections by 17%, and the Singapore expansion is ahead of schedule." "About that." Aston swirled his drink, not meeting my eyes. "The board and I have been discussing the director position extensively." I leaned forward. "I've prepared a transition plan. I can hit the ground running Monday." "Your dedication is precisely why this is difficult." He finally looked at me. "We're bringing in someone from outside." The words didn't register at first. "I'm sorry?" "Marcus Kelly, from Brightline. He starts next month." My mouth went dry. "Brightline? They're half our size, and their operations are. What they lack in scale, they make up for in innovation." Aston's smile didn't reach his eyes. "The board wants fresh perspective. 5 years. 5 years of missed birthdays, canceled vacations, and 3 a.m. crisis calls. I restructured our entire supply chain. I delivered 20% cost reduction while improving delivery times. And that's why we value you exactly where you are." He leaned back. "You're exceptional at execution, Natasha, but director level requires a different skill set." "Different how?" My voice had gone dangerously quiet. "Strategic vision, leadership presence." He gestured vaguely. "Marcus brings a certain gravitas to the role." Gravitas. The coded language wasn't lost on me. Marcus Kelly was 42, former college athlete, Wharton MBA. I was 32, state school, worked through college waiting tables. "I see." I didn't. "And my compensation adjustment?" "We're prepared to offer a 10% increase, plus stock options. Half what the director role would pay." "That's generous." "You're disappointed." He sighed like this was harder for him than me. "Look, you're valuable to us, but sometimes women in this industry need to adjust expectations." My skin went hot, then cold. "Excuse me?" "I'm being straight with you because I respect you." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "The executive floor has a certain dynamic. The board has concerns about how you'd handle that pressure." "I've been handling pressure since I started here." "Different kind of pressure." He smiled in a way that made my stomach turn. "Look, you're smart, capable, gorgeous, obviously, but director meetings get heated, decisions get personal, men at that level play rough." I stared at him, processing what he was really saying. "I'm doing you a favor." He finished his scotch. "The board questioned if you have the temperament. I convinced them to keep you on with a raise." "Because I'm too emotional?" The words tasted bitter. "Because you're too valuable where you are." He checked his watch. "Think of it as a stepping stone. Give it another year or two." Another year or two, on top of the 5 I'd already given. "And if Marcus fails?" "He won't." Aston stood, signaling our meeting was over. He comes highly recommended. By whom, I wanted to ask. Instead, I stood, legs wooden. Thank you for your candor. That's what I appreciate about you, Natasha. You take feedback well. He walked me to the door, hand hovering near the small of my back without quite touching it. Most women would get emotional. I stopped at the threshold. Most people would when their career hits a ceiling for reasons unrelated to performance. His smile tightened. This isn't personal, isn't it? I met his gaze directly. What exactly did you tell the board about my temperament, Aston? Nothing that isn't obvious. His voice dropped. You're ambitious. Sometimes that comes across as aggressive in women. I nodded slowly, reaching into my pocket. My fingers closed around my phone. One more question. Did Marcus negotiate his compensation package? Of course, that's what leaders do. Interesting. I slid my thumb across my phone screen, stopping the recording I'd started the moment his secretary had called. 47 minutes of crystal clear audio. Have a good weekend. The flash of uncertainty in his eyes was almost worth the promotion I'd never get. Almost. I sat in the corner booth of Café Lucerne, my usual Friday spot, but nothing felt usual anymore. The recording played through my earbuds for the fourth time, each replay making my coffee grow colder and my anger burn hotter. Sometimes women in this industry need to adjust expectations. My finger jabbed the pause button. A couple at the next table glanced over, probably noticing my white-knuckle grip on my phone. I forced my hand to relax and took a sip of lukewarm coffee. My phone buzzed with a text from Jude. How'd the big meeting go? Champagne tonight? I typed back. Rain check. We'll call tomorrow. I couldn't face my brother's inevitable disappointment on my behalf, or worse, his practical advice about playing the long game. Jude had always been the voice of reason, the one who'd talk me down from professional ledges. But this wasn't about impatience or entitlement. This was about watching a less qualified man walk into the role I'd shaped. More coffee? The waitress appeared with a pot. Please. I removed my earbuds. And maybe something stronger if you've got it. She smiled sympathetically. Bad day? Bad career trajectory. Been there. She refilled my cup. We don't have a liquor license, but the bakery next door makes rum cake that'll knock you sideways. I laughed despite myself. I'll stick with caffeine for now. As she walked away, my phone lit up with an email notification. Zuriel from Legal. Subject line, got a minute? Zuriel and I weren't close, but we'd worked together on contract negotiations. He was quiet, methodical, and kept to himself. I opened the message. Natasha, heard about the director decision. Unfair doesn't begin to cover it. If you have time, there's something you should know. Z. I stared at the screen, curiosity temporarily displacing anger. I typed back, I'm at Café Lucerne now if you're free. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, 15 minutes. While waiting, I scrolled through LinkedIn, masochistically searching for Marcus Kelly. His profile was exactly what I expected. Professional headshot with perfect teeth. Harvard undergrad before Wharton. Recommendations from industry heavyweights. Nothing in his experience suggested he could handle our operations complexity, but everything about him screamed executive material. Is this seat taken? I looked up to find Zuriel standing there, leather messenger bag slung across his chest, expression unreadable behind wire-rimmed glasses. All yours. I gestured to the empty bench across from me. He slid in, ordered black coffee when the waitress returned, then leaned forward. I shouldn't be telling you this. That's a promising start. I mean it, Natasha. This conversation never happened. I nodded, suddenly alert. Understood. He glanced around before continuing. Marcus isn't the first external hire for that position. There was another candidate 2 months ago, Eliza Winters from Meridian Group. What happened? She accepted, then withdrew a week later. Cited personal reasons. His fingers made air quotes. And? And 3 days before she withdrew, she had a private dinner with Aston and Charlotte from HR. My stomach tightened. Charlotte had been with the company forever, a fixture in human resources who prided herself on managing executive transitions. How do you know this? I handle the executive expense accounts. Zuriel's voice dropped further. The dinner was at Aston's Club, $500 bottle of wine, listed as candidate recruitment. That doesn't prove anything, I said, though my instincts were screaming otherwise. No, but this might. He slid his phone across the table, open to an email thread. Charlotte accidentally copied me on this exchange with Aston after Eliza withdrew. I scanned the messages, my heart pounding harder with each line. Charlotte. Situation handled as discussed. Candidate cited family concerns. Aston. Expensive lesson. Next time we vet for flexibility earlier. Charlotte. Already adjusting the profile. We'll focus on candidates who understand our culture. Aston. Good. The board doesn't need to know details. What the hell does flexibility mean? I whispered. Zuriel reclaimed his phone. I have my theories. Share them. Eliza has 2 kids. Marcus has none. Eliza asked about work-life balance in her final interview. Marcus apparently told Aston he lives for the job. The coffee turned sour in my stomach. That's discrimination. It's unprovable discrimination, Zuriel corrected. And there's more. You're not the only internal candidate who's been passed over. Diane in marketing, Amara in finance. All women, I finished. All women who pushed back on something. Diane questioned the budget cuts to her department. Amara flagged accounting irregularities. I sat back, processing. Why are you telling me this? Zuriel's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. Because I've watched you rebuild this company's operations from the ground up while Aston takes credit. Because my sister faced the same glass ceiling at her firm until someone finally spoke up. And what exactly am I supposed to do with this information? That's up to you. He stood, leaving cash for his untouched coffee. But if you decide to do something, I might have more you could use. After he left, I played the recording one more time, hearing it differently now. This wasn't just about me. It was systematic. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Natasha, it's Zlata from Client Services. Charlotte asked me to schedule your adjustment meeting for Monday. Is something wrong with your job? Zlata, 28, brilliant, ambitious, just like I'd been. I stared at her message, something hardening inside me. I thought of all the nights I'd worked until midnight, the promotions I'd been passed over for, the comments about my aggressive communication style. I picked up my phone and called Milton Emerson at the Times. We'd met at an industry conference last year, exchanged cards. He'd said to call if I ever had a story. This wasn't just my story anymore. The sky darkened as I waited outside the coffee shop, heavy clouds gathering like my thoughts. Milton was 15 minutes late. I checked my phone again. No messages, no calls. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I should just take the raise, keep my head down, play the game like everyone else. A black sedan pulled up and Milton emerged, raindrops already speckling his jacket. He spotted me and waved, hurrying over. Natasha, sorry I'm late. Editor meeting ran long. He extended his hand. Appreciate you reaching out. We ducked inside just as the rain began in earnest, claiming a corner table away from other patrons. Milton was older than I remembered, mid-50s with salt and pepper hair and the intense focus that marked career journalists. So, he said after ordering coffee, your message mentioned workplace discrimination. You have evidence? I placed my phone on the table between us. I recorded my boss explaining why I wasn't getting promoted. His eyebrows rose. Is New York a one-party consent state for recordings? Yes, I checked. Smart. He nodded approvingly. Mind if I listen? I pushed the phone toward him, watching his face as he put in earbuds. His expression remained neutral, but I caught the slight narrowing of his eyes at certain points, the almost imperceptible shake of his head. When he finished, he removed the earbuds carefully. That's explicit. And it's not just me. I leaned forward. I've learned there's a pattern. Other women passed over. An external female candidate who mysteriously withdrew. Can you prove the pattern? I have a source in legal. He has documentation. Milton's eyes sharpened. Would this source go on record? The question pulled me up short. Would Zuriel risk his job? Would I be asking him to? I don't know, I admitted, but there must be others who've experienced the same thing. Finding them is the challenge. Milton tapped his fingers on the table. HR departments are excellent at making these issues disappear one by one. Settlements with NDAs, quiet exits, gaslighting. So, what are you saying? There's no story? I'm saying we need more. Your recording is compelling, but it's one incident. Corporate PR will spin it as a misunderstanding, a disgruntled employee. My stomach sank. So, I just accept it? Let them keep doing this? No. Milton's voice hardened. We build a stronger case, find others willing to speak, even anonymously, get documentation of the pattern. And if I can do that, then we have a story that could change things, not just at your company, but potentially across the industry. He paused. But Natasha, you need to understand what you're risking. Once this goes public, your career there is over. It's already over, I said quietly. They've made that clear. Milton studied me for a moment. There's something else you should consider. These stories get ugly. The company will dig into your past, look for anything to discredit you. Are you prepared for that? The question hit harder than I expected. My mind flashed to the anxiety medication in my bathroom cabinet, the therapy sessions after my last breakup, the time I'd lost my temper in a meeting 2 years ago. I'm not perfect, I said finally, but I'm right about this. Being right isn't always enough. His tone was gentle but firm. Think it through. Meanwhile, I'll make some discreet inquiries about your company's history. We parted with a plan to reconnect in 3 days. As I stepped outside, the rain had intensified, drumming against the awning. I hadn't brought an umbrella. Need a ride? Milton offered, car service app already open on his phone. I'm good. I live close. I zipped my jacket. Thanks for meeting me. Natasha, he hesitated. Whatever you decide, document everything from now on. They'll be watching you. His words followed me through the rain, a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. My apartment felt emptier than usual that night. I paced the living room, phone in hand, debating whether to call Jude. My brother had always been my sounding board, but he was also pragmatic to a fault. He'd tell me to focus on finding another job, not fighting a battle I couldn't win. The knock at my door startled me. I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, I saw Zuriel, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. Sorry to show up unannounced, he said when I opened the door, but we need to talk. I let him in, noting the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes darted around my apartment. What's wrong? Charlotte called me into her office today. He removed his glasses, cleaning them nervously. Asked if I'd been in contact with you. My pulse quickened. What did you say? That we occasionally work together on contracts, nothing more. He replaced his glasses. Natasha, they're already suspicious. Someone saw us at the cafe. That doesn't prove anything. It doesn't have to. They're watching the email servers, monitoring communications. He lowered his voice despite us being alone. I think they know about the recording. How could they possibly? Aston's assistant. She was at her desk when you left his office. Maybe she noticed something. I sank onto my couch. So, what now? Now, you need to be extremely careful. Zuriel sat beside me. And you need to know something else. I can't be your source anymore. What? Why? Because I have 2 kids and a mortgage. His voice cracked slightly. And because Charlotte mentioned budget cuts in legal during our conversation. It wasn't subtle. The weight of what I was up against suddenly felt crushing. They're threatening you. Not explicitly. They never do. He ran a hand through his hair. I'm sorry. I want to help, but I understand. And I did, even as disappointment flooded me. Family comes first. We sat in silence for a moment, rain pattering against the windows. There is one thing, he said finally, reaching into his bag. He pulled out a USB drive. Everything I have, email threads, expense reports, exit interviews that never made it to file. I'm not your source, but maybe this can help you find others who might be willing to speak. I stared at the small device, understanding its significance. Zuriel, if they find out, they won't, not if you're careful. He stood to leave. Just promise me something. What? Make it count. After he left, I held the USB drive like it was made of glass. The rain outside had transformed into a proper storm, thunder rolling across the city. I plugged the drive into my laptop and began to read. By midnight, I knew exactly what I was fighting, and who else might help me fight it. Monday morning arrived with that peculiar clarity that follows a weekend of little sleep and intense focus. I'd spent hours combing through Zuriel's files, connecting dots, making lists of names, women who'd left the company after being passed over, employees who'd filed complaints that mysteriously disappeared. The elevator dinged at the 38th floor. I stepped out, coffee in hand, expression carefully neutral. Act normal. Don't give them anything. Natasha! Zlata waved from her desk, bright-eyed despite the early hour. I've been trying to reach you all weekend. Sorry, I was unplugged. I smiled, hoping it looked genuine. What's up? She lowered her voice. Charlotte rescheduled your meeting for this morning, 9:30. She said it's important. My stomach tightened. Thanks for the heads up. Is everything okay? Genuine concern filled her eyes. People are talking about restructuring, and your name keeps coming up. I hesitated, studying her. Zlata had joined the company just 18 months ago, brilliant and eager. She reminded me of myself before disillusionment set in, before I learned how the game was really played. Everything's fine, I lied. Just corporate politics. She didn't look convinced. If you need anything, I know, thanks. I squeezed her shoulder as I passed, guilt gnawing at me. If I went forward with this, the fallout wouldn't just affect me. At my desk, I found an email from Charlotte confirming our meeting. The subject line read, Performance Discussion, Confidential, classic HR setup for a warning or termination. They were moving faster than I'd anticipated. I had just enough time to forward several key documents from Zuriel's files to my personal email before heading to Charlotte's office. Insurance, in case today went sideways. Charlotte's assistant waved me in without looking up. Inside, I found not just Charlotte but Aston as well, both seated at her small conference table. My pulse quickened. Natasha? Charlotte smiled warmly, too warmly. Thanks for making time. Please sit. I took the chair facing both of them, back to the door. A deliberate power move on their part. We wanted to check in after Friday's discussion, Aston began, all concerned professionalism. I sensed you were disappointed. That's one word for it. Charlotte leaned forward. We understand career setbacks can be difficult, but we see this as an opportunity for growth, not a limitation. Growth. I kept my voice even. Into what, exactly? We've been discussing your future here, Charlotte continued, and we have a proposal that might interest you. Aston slid a folder across the table. A lateral move to our Singapore office, leading the expansion you've been working on. I didn't touch the folder. Singapore. It's an exciting opportunity, Charlotte enthused. Same compensation package we discussed Friday, plus relocation benefits. When would this start? I asked, already knowing the answer. Ideally next month. Aston smiled. We need someone who understands the operations intimately. Someone they could ship 6,000 miles away. Someone who wouldn't be around to make noise when Marcus took over the role I'd built. I'm flattered, I said carefully, but my life is here, my family. Of course we understand that. Charlotte's voice oozed sympathy. Take the weekend to think it over, but we will need an answer by Friday. And if I decline? A brief silence. Then we'll need to reevaluate your current role, Aston said finally. With the new leadership coming in, there may be redundancies. There it was. Accept exile or face elimination. I see. I stood, leaving the folder untouched. I'll consider it. As I reached the door, Charlotte called after me. Oh, Natasha? I almost forgot. The company is updating our confidentiality policies. Legal will be sending around new agreements for everyone to sign. I turned back, meeting her gaze. Everyone? Senior management first. Her smile never reached her eyes. By end of day, please. Message received. They're trying to bury you, Jude said that evening, pacing my living room. I'd finally called him, needing my brother's perspective even if I didn't follow his advice. Or ship me off to Singapore. I poured more wine into both our glasses. Same difference. It's constructive dismissal, Nat. They're hoping you'll quit so they don't have to fire you and risk a lawsuit. I know what they're doing. I took a long sip. The question is what I'm going to do. Jude stopped pacing. You're not seriously considering fighting this? These people played dirty. So I've discovered. I opened my laptop, showing him the files. Look at this. 5 women in 3 years. All pushed out after raising concerns. Settlements with NDAs. Aston's expenses showing business dinners with female employees half his age. Jude scanned the screen, expression darkening. Where did you get this? Does it matter? It matters if it was obtained illegally. His lawyer instincts kicked in. Nat, if you got this through unauthorized access, I didn't steal anything, I snapped. It was given to me by someone concerned about the pattern. Someone who could lose their job. Someone who already backed out. I closed the laptop. But there are others, Jude. Women who left, who might talk if approached carefully. He sat beside me, concern etched on his face. And you're going to be the one to approach them? Put yourself at the center of this? Someone has to. Why you? His voice softened. Why not find another job, one worthy of your talents, and leave this place in your rear view? The question hung between us. Why was I doing this? For justice, revenge, to prove something? Because next time it'll be Zlata, I said finally, or some other woman who works twice as hard, only to hit the same wall. Nothing changes if we all just walk away. Jude studied me for a long moment. You know I'll support you whatever you decide, but promise me you'll be careful. These corporate types, they protect their own. I know. I squeezed his hand. That's why I need to talk to someone who wasn't protected. After Jude left, I opened my laptop again, staring at a name that had appeared repeatedly in the files. Diana Vega, former marketing director, left abruptly last year after filing a complaint against Aston. Her settlement included an NDA, but according to the files, she'd initially refused to sign. I found her on LinkedIn, currently freelancing, based in Brooklyn. My finger hovered over the message button. Once I reached out, there would be no turning back. Charlotte's warning about the confidentiality agreement echoed in my mind. They were already moving to silence me. I clicked connect and began typing. Diana, you don't know me, but we have something in common. I think it's time someone spoke up. Send. Diana chose a crowded brunch spot in Williamsburg, the kind of place where conversations disappear into the ambient noise. I spotted her immediately. Sharp bob, oversized sunglasses, shoulders tense with vigilance. She didn't remove the glasses even after sliding into the booth across from me. I almost didn't come, she said without preamble. Messaging me was risky. For both of us, I acknowledged. Thank you for meeting anyway. She studied me from behind dark lenses. Your message said you work at Pinnacle. Marketing? Operations? Senior manager? For now. A knowing smile flickered across her face. Let me guess, you were promised something they didn't deliver. Director position, given to an external male candidate instead. Diana removed her sunglasses finally, revealing tired eyes. Tale as old as time. What makes your situation different from the dozen other women they've done this to? I recorded Aston explaining why I wasn't director material. I leaned forward, and I have documentation of a pattern. Her posture changed subtly. What kind of documentation? Email threads, HR complaints that disappeared, settlement details. Including mine? Her voice sharpened. Yes? She glanced around the restaurant, then back at me. You realize I signed an NDA. I know. Then why am I here, Natasha? I took a deep breath. Because before you signed, you fought. Harder than anyone else, according to the files. You wanted something beyond money. Diana's laugh held no humor. I wanted accountability, systemic change. She stirred her untouched coffee. Instead, I got a check and a legally binding promise to shut up forever. What if you weren't alone this time? I pulled out my phone, showing her a list. 3 other women are willing to talk, NDA or not. With your help, we could find more. And do what exactly? Class action? Media exposure? She shook her head. They'll bury you in legal fees before you ever see a courtroom. I have a journalist interested, Milton Emerson from the Times. That caught her attention. Emerson? He broke the Westlake Industries story last year. Yes, but he needs more sources willing to go on record. Diana was quiet for a long moment. You know what happens to whistleblowers, right? Best case, you're blacklisted in the industry. Worst case, they destroy your reputation completely. I know the risks. Do you? She leaned forward. When I filed my complaint, they started rumors that I was unstable, that I'd made advances toward Aston and turned vindictive when rejected. Former colleagues, friends, stopped returning my calls. My stomach tightened. I'm sorry that happened to you. It wasn't just me. Every woman who's challenged them has been systematically discredited. Her eyes held mine. Are you prepared for that? The question hung between us. Was I? I thought about Zlata's admiring glances, my professional reputation built over years, Jude's concern. I have to be, I said finally, because it won't stop with me. Diana studied me for a long moment. You remind me of myself a year ago, before they broke me. You don't seem broken to me, a ghost of a smile. Good act, isn't it? She sighed. I can't go on record. My NDA is ironclad, and I've rebuilt my life. But, I can connect you with others, women who might be willing to speak. She pulled out her phone. And I can tell you things that won't appear in any documentation. For the next hour, Diana painted a picture more disturbing than anything in Zuriel's files. A boys' club mentality that extended beyond Aston to the entire executive floor. Retreats where female employees were expected to socialize after hours. Performance reviews that hinged on cultural fit rather than results. The Singapore offer, I said suddenly, did they try that with you too? Diana's expression confirmed it before she spoke. Hong Kong, in my case, same playbook, export the problem. As we parted, she gripped my arm. Whatever you do, don't sign anything they put in front of you. No new confidentiality agreements, no amended contracts, nothing. I won't. And Natasha? Her voice softened. Watch your back, literally. Don't be alone with any of them. I was still processing Diana's warnings when I returned to the office that afternoon. The floor was unusually quiet for a Tuesday. As I approached my desk, Zlata hurried over, eyes wide. Where have you been? She whispered. Charlotte's been looking for you everywhere. I had a meeting off-site. What's going on? I don't know exactly, but... She glanced around nervously. Marcus was here earlier, with IT. They were at your desk. My blood went cold. My computer? They said something about a security audit. She bit her lip. Natasha, I heard them mention your email activity. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Meeting room C now. Z. Zuriel. My pulse quickened. I need to go, I told Zlata. If anyone asks, you're in the quarterly planning session. I know. She squeezed my hand. Be careful. Meeting room C was tucked away in a rarely used corner of the floor. Zuriel was already inside, pacing. They know, he said the moment I closed the door. It did a sweep of all senior management communications this morning. They found your forwards to your personal email. How bad? Bad enough. They're building a case for corporate espionage. His voice shook slightly. Aston's called an emergency executive meeting for 4 o'clock. To discuss me? To discuss your termination. He ran a hand through his hair. And possible legal action. The room seemed to tilt slightly. They're going to sue me? They're going to try to scare you into silence. Zuriel checked his watch. You have 2 hours before that meeting ends. Get whatever you need from your desk and go. Don't come back tomorrow. But that's Natasha. His eyes met mine. This isn't a negotiation anymore. They're coming for you. Today. As if on cue, my phone lit up with an email from Charlotte. Please see me immediately regarding a serious policy violation. Go, Zuriel urged. Now. I left through the service elevator, heart pounding against my ribs. In the lobby, I texted Milton. They found out. Moving forward now. How soon can we meet? His response came seconds later. My office, 1 hour. The battle lines were drawn. There would be no going back. Rain pounded the windows of Milton's office, the sky darkening prematurely despite it being only 4 in the afternoon. I sat across from him, watching as he reviewed the materials I'd brought, the recording, Zuriel's files, notes from my conversation with Diana. This is substantial, he said finally, looking up. More than I expected. Is it enough? My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. For a preliminary story, yes. He leaned back in his chair. But you understand what happens once we publish? There's no middle ground here. They'll come at you with everything they have. They already are. I showed him the texts I'd received in the past hour. First from Charlotte demanding my immediate return, then from Aston himself, his tone shifting from professional concern to thinly veiled threats. Milton read them silently. Have you spoken with an attorney? My brother's a lawyer. He's drawing up a preemptive response. I rubbed my temples, fighting a growing headache. But legally, I'm vulnerable. I did forward company documents to my personal email. Which complicates things. Milton tapped his pen against his desk. They'll claim you stole proprietary information. Try to make the story about your actions rather than theirs. So, what do? We move quickly. He checked his watch. I can have a draft ready by morning. We'll need statements from your other sources tonight. My phone buzzed again. Jude. Where are you? Call me ASAP. I need to take this, I told Milton, stepping into the hallway. Jude answered on the first ring. Nat, listen carefully. Aston's legal team just contacted my firm. They're filing for an emergency injunction. My stomach dropped. Against what? Against you disclosing any company information to anyone, including the press. His voice was tight with tension. They're claiming breach of contract, theft of trade secrets, and defamation. That's ridiculous. This isn't about trade secrets. It doesn't matter. It's a scare tactic, but an effective one. If a judge grants the injunction, you'll be legally barred from speaking to Milton or anyone else about Pinnacle. How soon? They're requesting an emergency hearing tomorrow morning. Jude paused. Nat, they're serious. The complaint includes a demand for damages, 7 figures. The hallway seemed to narrow around me. 7 figures, more money than I'd ever see in my lifetime. What do I do? Come to my office, now. We need to prepare a response. I ended the call and leaned against the wall, suddenly lightheaded. This was moving faster than I'd anticipated, spiraling beyond my control. When I returned to Milton's office, he was already on the phone, his expression grave. He held up a finger, finished his conversation, then turned to me. That was my editor. His voice was carefully neutral. Pinnacle's PR team just reached out. They're claiming you're under investigation for corporate espionage and attempting to blackmail executives. That's absurd. It's predictable. Milton's eyes were sympathetic but direct. They're trying to discredit you before the story breaks. Can they stop the story? Not if we have corroboration from multiple sources. He hesitated, but the legal threats complicate things. My editor wants to be certain we're on solid ground. My phone buzzed yet again. Unknown number. Natasha? It's Zlata. They just escorted me out of the building. They're saying I helped you access confidential files. My blood went cold. What? That's not true. I know that. Her voice trembled, but security went through my computer, and apparently I accessed HR records last month for that project Charlotte assigned me. They're saying I had no authorization. Zlata, I'm so sorry. They made me sign something before I left. I didn't know what else to do. She was crying now. I can't lose this job, Natasha. My visa? I understand. It's okay. But it wasn't. Nothing about this was okay. After calming Zlata as best I could, I turned back to Milton, my resolve wavering for the first time. They're going after people close to me, I said quietly, a junior employee who did nothing wrong. Milton nodded grimly. Standard intimidation tactic. They're showing you the collateral damage you're causing. It's working? I sank into a chair. I never wanted anyone else hurt by this. That's what they're counting on. He leaned forward. This is the moment most people back down. Take the settlement they'll inevitably offer. Sign the NDA. And if I don't, then we push forward. But I need you certain, Natasha. Once we publish, there's no going back. My phone lit up again. Aston, this has gone far enough. Meet me tonight, 8 p.m., the Gable. Just you and me. We can resolve this like professionals. I stared at the message, something cold and clear crystallizing inside me. He wants to meet, I told Milton, alone. That's a trap. Of course it is. I stood, decision made. But it's also an opportunity. For what? To get him on record one more time. I held up my phone. If he's willing to meet, he's willing to talk. And if he's willing to talk, he might say something we can use. Milton nodded slowly. But it's risky. He'll be prepared this time. So will I. I texted Jude. Meeting Aston at 8. Need you to be nearby. Then to Aston. I'll be there. The rain intensified outside, sheets of water cascading down the windows. A storm was coming, in more ways than one. You don't have to do this, Milton said quietly. Yes, I do. I gathered my things, because if I don't stand my ground now, I never will. As I left his office, my phone buzzed with a final message from Zoriel. Whatever happens next, remember why you started this. It was never just about you. He was right. It wasn't just about me. It was about Zlata, Diana, and every woman who would come after us. The thought steadied me as I stepped into the rain, heading toward a confrontation that would change everything. The gable occupied the top floor of a midtown high-rise, all dark wood and amber lighting, the kind of place where deals were sealed with handshakes and knowing glances. I arrived 20 minutes early, my hair still damp from the rain, heart hammering against my ribs. Ms. Lynch, the host greeted me by name. Mr. George is already here. Private room in the back. Of course he was early, controlling the environment, setting the stage. I need a moment. I gestured toward the restroom. Inside, I gripped the marble counter, studying my reflection. The woman staring back looked composed, but I could see the tension in her jaw, the wariness in her eyes. I touched the small recording device Jude had given me, securely clipped inside my jacket pocket, then checked my phone one last time. Jude. In the bar downstairs. Text if you need me. Milton. Remember, you're not there to defend yourself. You're there to let him reveal himself. I took a deep breath and walked out. The private dining room was separated from the main restaurant by frosted glass doors. Aston stood as I entered, his smile practiced and confident. No sign of the man who'd threatened legal action hours earlier. Natasha, thank you for coming. He gestured to the chair across from him. A bottle of expensive scotch sat between two glasses on the table. Drink? No, thank you. I remained standing. Let's skip the pleasantries, Aston. Why am I here? Please sit. His tone hardened slightly. We have matters to discuss. I sat, keeping my back straight, hands visible on the table. Such as the lawsuit your lawyers are preparing? A precautionary measure. He poured himself 2 fingers of scotch. One that can be withdrawn if we reach an understanding tonight. What kind of understanding? He took a measured sip before answering. You've put yourself in a difficult position, Natasha, removing confidential documents, making baseless accusations. They're not baseless. From where I sit, they look like the actions of a disgruntled employee who didn't get her way. His smile never reached his eyes. But I understand disappointment can cloud judgment. The condescension in his voice made my skin crawl, but I kept my expression neutral. Is that why you asked me here? To explain my clouded judgment? I asked you here because, despite everything, I still see your potential. He leaned forward. This situation can still be salvaged. How? You return all company materials in your possession, sign an agreement acknowledging your actions and accepting certain restrictions moving forward. He made it sound reasonable, even generous. In exchange, we drop the legal action and provide a severance package, 6 months' salary, plus benefits, and an NDA. Standard procedure in these situations. These situations. I repeated the words slowly. You mean when women challenge your authority? His expression flickered. This isn't about gender, Natasha. It's about professional conduct. Is that what you told Diana and Eliza and the others? The mention of those names hit their mark. Aston's jaw tightened momentarily before he regained his composure. I won't discuss other employees, past or present. Of course not. That would acknowledge the pattern. He set his glass down with deliberate care. What exactly do you hope to accomplish here? Even if your journalist friend publishes something, it becomes your word against the company's, a company with considerably more resources and credibility. It won't be just my word. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. If you're referring to Zuriel, he's already recanted his statements, admitted to misinterpreting certain communications. My stomach dropped. You're lying. Am I? He pulled out his phone, scrolled briefly, then turned it toward me. An email from Zuriel to HR, apologizing for sharing incomplete information that may have been misconstrued. The betrayal stung, even though I understood the pressure he must have been under. One source down, Aston continued. As for the others, Zlata's visa situation is precarious, isn't it? And I understand Diana's new freelance business is finally taking off. Would be a shame if potential clients heard she violated her NDA. The threat hung in the air between us. I thought of Zlata crying on the phone, Diana's warnings about what they'd done to her reputation. You really don't see it, do you? I said quietly. How you use power to silence people. I use power to protect what I've built. His voice hardened. Something you'd understand if you'd ever built anything of significance yourself. The words were calculated to wound, to remind me of my place. 5 days ago, they might have worked. I've built plenty, I said, meeting his gaze steadily, including a case against you that doesn't depend on any single person's testimony. Empty threats, Natasha. Not empty. I reached into my pocket, not for the recorder, but for my phone. I placed it on the table, screen up, showing the recording app running. And not threats. Aston stared at the phone, then at me, his expression darkening. You're recording this conversation? Just like I recorded our meeting on Friday. I leaned forward. New York is a one-party consent state, completely legal. Give me that phone. His voice was dangerously low. No. He reached across the table, but I was faster, sliding the phone back into my pocket. This meeting is over. He stood abruptly. Expect to hear from our attorneys first thing tomorrow. Before you go, I remained seated, voice steady despite my racing heart. You should know the Times has statements from 5 women detailing similar experiences with you and Pinnacle's leadership. The story runs tomorrow morning. You're bluffing. Check your email in an hour. Milton will reach out for comment as a professional courtesy. Something shifted in his expression, the first flicker of genuine uncertainty I'd seen. What do you want? He asked finally. What I've always wanted, the director position I earned, public acknowledgement of the pattern of discrimination, and no retaliation against anyone who spoke up. He laughed, a harsh sound in the quiet room. Impossible. Then I walk out that door, and tomorrow everyone knows exactly who you are. And who you are? His voice turned venomous. A vindictive, ambitious woman who couldn't handle rejection. I stood then, gathering my things with deliberate calm. That's where you're wrong, Aston. I handled rejection just fine. It's injustice I couldn't stomach. As I reached the door, he called after me. You'll never work in this industry again. You know that, right? I turned back one last time. Maybe not, but neither will you. The look on his face, rage mingled with the first real traces of fear, told me he finally believed me. Outside, the rain had stopped. The night air felt electric against my skin as I texted Milton. It's done. Run the story. Sleep never came. I sat at my kitchen table as night gradually yielded to dawn, my laptop open to the Times website, waiting. The apartment felt unnaturally quiet, as if the world itself were holding its breath. At 6:07 a.m., my phone rang. Milton. It's live. he said without preamble. Top of the digital front page. I refreshed the screen. There it was. Systematic discrimination alleged at Pinnacle Corp. My name appeared in the second paragraph, alongside words like whistleblower and retaliation. How are you feeling? Milton asked. I don't know yet. My voice sounded distant to my own ears. Ask me tomorrow. After we hung up, I remained motionless, staring at the article. 5 women had gone on record, 3 anonymously, 2 with names. Diana had changed her mind at the last minute, deciding that silence had cost her enough already. The story detailed a pattern spanning years: passed over promotions, strategic relocations, retaliatory actions. My phone began buzzing with notifications. Text messages, emails, LinkedIn requests, journalists seeking comments, former colleagues expressing shock or support. I silenced it, needing space to process. The intercom buzzed. Jude. You shouldn't be alone right now, he said when I let him in, setting down coffee and bagels I hadn't asked for, but suddenly desperately needed. Have you seen it? I asked. Of course. He squeezed my shoulder. You did it, Nat. Did what, exactly? I sank onto the couch, ended my career, started a legal battle I can't afford. Told the truth. He sat beside me. Everything else is just consequences. My phone rang again, Zuriel this time. I hesitated, then answered on speaker. I'm sorry, he said immediately. They threatened my kids, Natasha, my daughter's college acceptance. I understand, and I did. The email to HR? Written with their attorney watching over my shoulder. His voice was strained. But I want you to know, I've resigned this morning, effective immediately. Zuriel, you didn't have to. Yes, I did. Something had shifted in his tone. Relief, perhaps. I've already received 2 calls from firms wanting to discuss opportunities. Turns out having principles is marketable. After we hung up, Jude studied me. You realize what's happening, right? The story's spreading. People are choosing sides. My phone confirmed it. The article was being shared across social media. Comment sections filling with similar stories from other companies, other industries. It's not about sides, I said finally. It's about patterns. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. The day unfolded in a blur of communications. Charlotte sent a company-wide email announcing Aston's temporary leave of absence, pending an internal investigation. PR released a statement expressing shock at the allegations and commitment to a thorough review. Standard corporate damage control. By afternoon, I'd heard from 3 law firms offering to represent me pro bono against Pinnacle's inevitable lawsuit. 2 competing companies had left messages about potential opportunities. A women's professional organization wanted me to speak at their conference. Your phone hasn't stopped, Jude observed as evening approached. Maybe this won't be the career suicide you feared. Maybe not. But something still felt unresolved. I need to go somewhere. Want company? I shook my head. This one's solo. The Pinnacle building looked different in twilight, less imposing somehow. Security would have my access revoked by now, but I wasn't there to go inside. I stood across the street watching employees exit, wondering which ones had read the article, which ones were discussing it in hushed tones by the coffee machine. I thought I might find you here. I turned to find Zlata beside me, her expression unreadable. Zlata, I'm so sorry about what happened. Don't be, she cut me off. I quit this morning. Your visa is being sponsored by Meridian Group. A small smile. They called after the article went live. Apparently, they're creating a new diversity initiative and wanted someone with demonstrated ethical backbone. Relief flooded through me. That's wonderful. It is. She turned to face the building. But that's not why I'm here. Why are you here? Same reason as you, I think. She nodded toward the entrance where a familiar figure was emerging. Charlotte, looking considerably less composed than usual, flanked by two men carrying boxes of her belongings. Board emergency session this afternoon. Zlata explained. Charlotte's out, so is the head of legal. They're calling it leadership restructuring. We watched in silence as Charlotte climbed into a waiting car. It won't fix everything, I said quietly. No. Zlata's shoulder brushed against mine. But it's a start. As we stood there, my phone buzzed with an email. Board of Directors at Pinnacle, requesting a meeting tomorrow to discuss organizational improvements and my potential role in future leadership. I showed it to Zlata, who raised an eyebrow. Are you going? The question gave me pause. A week ago, I would have said yes immediately, desperate for validation, for the recognition I'd earned. Now, I don't know. I put the phone away. I have other meetings tomorrow. With who? Diana and the others. Something had crystallized inside me during these past days, a purpose clearer than any corporate title. We're discussing next steps. Next steps? This was never just about Pinnacle. I turned away from the building, no longer needing to watch its lights. It's about changing the patterns, everywhere. As we walked away, Zlata glanced back once. Aren't you worried about what happens next? The lawsuits? The backlash? Terrified. I smiled, surprising myself with how genuine it felt. But I'd rather be scared and moving forward than safe and standing still. The city stretched before us, full of buildings just like Pinnacle, full of stories just like mine. The thought no longer filled me with dread, but with a strange, fierce determination. They never expected us to compare notes, I said, more to myself than to Zlata. That was their first mistake. And their last, she added, falling into step beside me. The evening air felt different somehow, charged with possibility rather than threat. I'd lost something these past days, security perhaps, or illusions. But I'd found something too, something I hadn't even known I was looking for. My voice, and I wasn't done using it.